Athletor Podcast. We are back. And dude, Cliff Fretwell, it's been a minute, number one, since I've had you on a podcast. It's been a minute since I've spoken to you. How you doing, bud?
Dude, I this last year has just been. I'm waiting for somebody to just run me over with a bus. Like this last year has been amazing, dude.
Too good.
Like, it might have been malicious intent. That's how long ago it's been since me and you have been on the horn together, bro.
That's been a bit. It's been a bit.
A
Brock
lot of
Height.
gray, a lot of gray
I don't know
on
what you're
me and you
talking about. That's
both.
blonde. I
Man,
live in Southern California, son. That's blonde.
that is gray. You're old as hell.
Maybe
Nah, I'm pumped about this, dude. Like I love doing this. I got to find time to do it, man.
nailing
It
you
makes
down was not easy. Was not easy, brother. Like getting you to get off the bass boat was not easy, son.
don't be spreading lies, bro. Don't be spreading lies. My bass boat's been parked since December.
All right.
Oh
Well, look,
God, that's a whole
look,
different conversation.
for sure it is, and maybe we'll get into it, but I do want to talk a little bit of wrestling too. If you, all right, so check this out, and I don't ask this of almost any of our guests, but I've always loved your perspective. So if you were the president of wrestling and you had to come and address your constituents, yeah, and you had to give a state of the union, what would the state of the union sound like in 2024?
Uh, I still think we're getting in our way in a lot of aspects. I still think that there's a significant lack of business perspective in our sport. I think a lot of these guys are scared of the business and marketing aspect just because of the history of the core values of the sport of wrestling.
What do you mean by that? I
Money
don't
moves
know. What do you mean by
money
that?
moves everything. Money moves everything. So money, marketing, personalities, storylines, things like that. You know, more money, more problems. So like as money gets infused into the sport, I mean, look at what we're dealing with NIL right now. You
Mhm.
know, everybody's losing their mind over NIL. And I think the biggest problem is and me and you have talked to this at length offline, is you got a lot of coaches running athletic programs, and I'm not just talking about wrestling, that have no business experience at all. They were great athletes and they were surrounded by great coaches, but at the end of the day, they are running businesses. You know, college athletics is businesses. Running these events for youth guys and a lot of these high-end high school tournaments, they're businesses. Because if they're not sustainable or even break even, you know, they go away. So to me, I think that that's something that we've got to get more comfortable with, that element being in our sport and being a little bit more involved in our sport, or we're just going to kind of stay where we're at.
I feel, and maybe I feel like I'm crazy sometimes because we we want to be treated like a big boy sport. We want to get prime time. We want to get ESPN. We want to get, but we don't want to do the things that it takes to get there, right? I mean, let's be completely honest. Our sport really has no interest in making viable products. We just don't. We know that we need to do it. We do. I think we all intellectually understand that we need to make viable products. Yet we're not doing it. We know that we need a dual main national championship if we want to succeed. We all know, right? Like this is not like it's not news to anybody,
Yeah.
but nobody can do it.
Um, well, I mean, the funny thing is actually it wasn't malicious intent. Well, we shot a video, but I was up in New York. We were at Papa Lizio's thing, and you just came up to me randomly. No, you texted me the night before.
Mhm.
And you remember what you texted
Yeah.
me?
No, I don't remember
You
exactly what it
said,
was.
yeah. You said you're a maven in our sport, or maverick or something. You
Mm,
used
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah,
term.
Maverick. Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, it's got to be a compliment, but like I really didn't think about it until the next day. And you were like, I want you and Papalizio to sit down and let's talk about like events and what it takes to plan events and create hype and network and channel all those relationships and get the right people there. I mean, perfect example. Went up to New York to watch the UFC, already had everything in play. 2 weeks out, find out John Jones dropped off the card. You know what I'm saying? It was like,
Mhm.
do we still go? You know what I'm saying? Like, people being a part of a sport, the storylines that lead up to that, all the production and media and everything that goes into surrounding up to that event, like, is important for just that specific event. And when that event's over, everything starts over again to the next event, and everything starts over again to the next event. And that is absurd amounts of work. And I
Mhm.
just don't think we don't have the infrastructure. I mean, we have a couple things in our sport, media outlets in our sport that do their best, but at some point the money doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So how do we, and the only people that sponsor wrestling events pretty much are wrestling companies, and there's only so many of those. I can only stroke so many checks to sponsor so many events. But what I was getting to was there's very few guys like Papalizio who tirelessly obsess over the details that make an event an experience. And that's tough for me because there's a lot of smash and grab things out there. But at the collegiate level,
Yeah.
I don't think there's an excuse. I don't want to hear an excuse that you can't. I mean, look at what Pendleton just did. When Pendleton got to Oregon State, and I was talking to him Sunday, unfortunately, it was, bad news about Whitlake, but, dude, he just sold out a Penn State duel out in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? In a program that wasn't that great not too long ago. So like, but the steps he had to take and the fights he had to have and the battles he had to go through with the administration and athletic department to get there, bro, he should have quit a long time ago. But he just had a belief that he could get it done. And it's been 3 years of him working on that. You know what I'm saying? For one event. And then when it's over, everything starts over again to the next event, right? And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people, they're not event promoters, they're not marketers, they're not businessmen, and I get that. But
Yeah.
that's what you got to go through to get there.
So
And we don't
we're
have enough of
hiring
those guys in our sport.
we're hiring. Look, you know who is doing a very good job is Kevin Dresser, because Iowa State looks the part. Iowa State talks the part, whether it's through social media, whether it's through their athletes, whatever. They are putting butts in the seats, right? In Hilton Coliseum, which is in Ames, Iowa. I don't know if you know this, but there's not much around Ames, Iowa. I get
I've been
it.
to two duels at Ames this year with Chittum to go
I'm
watch Cody.
There ain't much
Bro,
there. You ain't telling
bro,
nobody. You ain't telling nobody. I went there for an event. I was
bro.
like, y'all shut the lights off. Like, so he's doing an amazing job. What if you're not marketing minded? What if you're co-op? What if you're maybe that's a bad example. No, maybe it's not. Maybe if you what if you're Doug Schwab? Like, we love Schwab. He's not the best marketer. Like, he'll admit that. So does that become part of your fundraising funnel? Do you have to hire someone like you to
I didn't know how to make apparel 10 years ago, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
You surround yourself with people that are better at things than you are, and you
Mhm.
either sponge off them and acquire those skills yourself,
Mhm.
or you just continue to invest in them and let them grow within your company and let them continue to be an asset. And I get it, there's going to be some guys watching this and be like, yeah, well, I got no budget and I got no this and I got no that. Chris Pendleton raised money to have a content creator because he knew he needed content. That Allie girl that shoots all their stuff, dude, she is unbelievable
Lights
and
out.
loves it. Yeah. And it was just kind of him looking for the right person and her wanting to do that. And it just started getting better and better. Same thing with Jake Elkins at Ironclad. Think
Mhm.
about MJ, like he wasn't very good at shooting video. And me and Elkins had talked about that before. He was like a year ago, didn't have a clue, but
Right.
kept investing in with a little bit. Elkins puts out some of the best content out there for wrestling,
For
whether
sure.
it's technique, whether it's podcast. So like, dude, if these small club owners can do it, no shot to Elkins, but like if a small club owner in Alabama can put out the quality content that he does and market his club the way he does, then dude, you can't tell me a major university or even a middle of the road university can't do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just an effort to find the skill set, invest some time and effort into them, maybe some finances, and let that grow, just like you're doing with your athletes. But I mean, it's not top of some people's list. I get it, but then don't complain because you're not getting any pub and you got no shine and this, that, and the other. Like, I get it, your marketing department might not see any value in it. All right, well, go create your own path. How can you walk and like, I'm going to sound like a dick for saying this. How can you walk out of your wrestling room where you just gave a speech to a bunch of guys about running through brick walls, and then you're like, I don't have a guy to film and post pictures. Like, that's so hard to do. I'm just not going to do it. Like, the mentality just is, it should be from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's why there's dudes that do it at a high level and there's dudes that sit around and complain, I guess, you
Yeah.
know? And I mean, that might, like I said, that might sound a little arrogant on my part, but like,
No, 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 no. No, it's not arrogant. It's, I think, far
or
too often.
judgmental. I'm sorry, not arrogant, judgmental.
No, I understand what you mean by that. I think what happens is we get so caught up in the X's and O's of like being in the wrestling room that we think that the lessons that we learn in the wrestling room are even as coaches are only for the wrestling room or only for training or only for hard things in our lives that we like to do. Well, guess what? They have to be for everything because I've told my son this already. I don't care if you ever win a wrestling match, bud. You already won. Like I already won. Like you are for sure a hardworking kid. Like you are a
Right.
hardworking kid, and you're gonna take that and you're gonna make from that what you will. But I already won. He's like, how do I beat this kid? I'm like, mm. And you know, I don't shrug my shoulders so much, but like I can't put as much into him winning wrestle matches as I already have him winning in life, you know?
You remember a conversation me and you had, I'll say a couple years ago, but it was probably 5 years ago. We were
Mhm.
talking about where you were at Flow and
Mhm.
what you were doing at Flow, and talking about kind of what you wanted to do within the organization at the time.
Mhm.
And I told you, I said, learn everything you can from everybody in the organization because
Absolutely.
you never know where you might end up in this world, right?
That's right.
And I get it. Like where I'm at in my business, like I can't be great at everything in my business, but I have to understand those aspects in order to
Mhm.
manage them properly or to go find the right resource to do it. That's a business thing. But
Mhm.
here's the deal. I am such a better business owner and manager of certain aspects in my company because I coached first, because they're still humans.
Yeah,
And adults sometimes are tougher to lead than kids because kids will
sure.
just take your word for it and be like, all right, cool, this is what we're doing. You know, he knows best. Adults are a little bit trickier. But at the end of the day, like those things cross over. It's not like, you know, it's not like the things that you're talking about to the kids in the room at practice aren't the same things that can be applied in a working environment.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Or when you're managing a staff, it's just tough because at a program you got budget, you got HR, you got staff, you got revenue, right? So you got all these aspects that you got marketing, right? You got brand, you know, and then you got all these humans, and then you're trying to manage all those crazy aspects of all that stuff. Then you throw in NIL and you throw in some of these other challenges, and it's like, okay, that would be like, you know, Ford just sitting around and be like, you know what, like this Elon Musk guy's making things tough for us with electric cars, but we're not going to make an electric car. We just going to sit around, and then all of a sudden you end up like Blockbuster Video. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And then Netflix just comes in and just takes your whole, a whole blower half out from under you, and you're still sitting there at brick and mortar stores. You know what I'm saying? You can either catch up with them and figure it out, or you can sit around and complain and be irrelevant real quick. So I think that's our biggest problem is we won't treat some of these aspects of sport, mainly college wrestling, like a business, and there's some ugly sides to business. I hate that, but when money gets involved, things change, and money's involved now. Money's always been involved. There's just
A
been
little bit
one guy
more.
holding.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit more now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that wasn't necessarily a State of the Union address. That was a little bit more of a rant, but
that's what State of the Union addresses are.
I mean, I love where we're headed, though, man. Like, I feel like this year there's been a lot of excitement. I'm not following it as super close as I have in years past of knowing all the rankings and this, that, and the other. But just from a fan perspective, man, like, I like it. I think that we're getting better. I mean, nobody can argue that duels aren't where it's at, though. I mean, dude.
You can't have I'm sorry, you can't have my attention for the Midlands. You can't you just can't anymore. I just don't have it in me anymore. Right. Like I am as big and I still do follow it. Like I still do follow it. Like Jared Lawrence and I sit down and go over results every week and we go over prospective duels and prospective tournaments. And you can't have my attention for 2 days straight.
Jared Lawrence?
That's the one. He's pretty good at wrestling. Yeah. I get to speak to him. He's cool. He signed my
you got his phone number. No, I agree with you. So here's perfect perspective, and I have a personal interest, but like I watched the entire girls' national championship final duel. Amani wrestles for North Central, but it was a duel. It was easy to get involved in. Like women, men, like really, really good, really, really not good. Like it didn't matter to me because it was a duel. And it came down to the last match, and it was an exciting duel, Iowa versus North Central. But like it was easy to get involved in. It's easy to be a fan. Like
we make it as difficult to be a fan, Cliff. We make it as difficult to be a fan in this sport as any other sport I've ever heard of. We just do.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, we got a real close personal connection, so I'm sure fencing is equally as tough to follow if you're not a fencing fan,
right, fair
but
enough. Fine.
I'm sure there's some aspects and nuances of other sports that would be tough. Like I like physical stuff. You couldn't pay me to watch a hockey game. Like I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand the aspect. Like if I knew it and could get involved in it and had a reason to be behind it, like I probably could, but that entry, that barrier to entry seems to be partial rules. It seems to be partial. We got duels, but we also got individual. We got this, but we don't have that. We got this, and then this changes. So, and then it's like some events are really big, and then other events aren't, and then some are important, and then some aren't, and it's like
you ever try explaining Greco to somebody?
Consistency, huh?
You ever try explaining Greco to somebody?
No, because I wouldn't want somebody to. I'm not gonna bust on Greco. Like,
I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
You need an applied physics degree to wrap your head around forced parterre and why you can't touch the legs. And wait, what? Why? It's just like it's hard.
Let me throw something out at you.
All right.
If you wanted to be the best painter in the world, like who you ain't got to give me a name, but how would you go about that? What would you study? Who would you study?
Picasso and the greats, right? I would
the greats, the people that have done it the best. So in our respective sport, wrestling, who is marketing combat sports the best?
UFC.
The UFC. They might market a sport better than almost everybody.
Fair enough.
You know what I'm saying? As far as the promos they cut, content they put out, the ways you can connect with their sport on so many different levels. Like there's blueprints out there to just straight up copy everything somebody else is doing. This time of year, there's football playoffs. And when there's two teams left at the end of football playoffs, they play in the what?
Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. And you have a big old party and you have friends over and you go to the Super Bowl. It's a predictable thing, right? Like, I don't feel like we have that rhythm with our sport. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if we get a little more streamlined with it, then maybe that's an easier story to tell as well. But I mean, I don't know, man. Like, how can two knuckleheads like us, and I'm not saying we got all the answers right now, but like, what kind of conversations don't happen, and why isn't somebody trying to have them?
Well, I think that there are people at the top of this sport, coaches at the top of this sport, that gatekeep quite a bit because they want to protect their spot at the top. Right? I think what happens is Penn State's built to win individual national championships. They just are. They have been for years. Since 2011, their team has been put together to win individual national tournaments.
How many duels have they lost, bro?
Not many.
I mean,
not many, but they don't. Yeah, but they don't have many duels. They don't have many duels. Like, I
get what you're saying, but they pretty much just win everything.
They do. I'm here to tell you that I know 100%.
Right. I get what you're saying. The byproduct of that is they just win a lot of dual meets too.
They do, because they can get falls and score points. But I think what happens is, do you remember when Kale said that dynasties are bad for the sport? Do you remember that when he was at Iowa State?
That was a minute ago. Yeah.
But he did. And I'm not saying that dynasties are always bad for the sport, but I think we all know that we need to have a dual meet national championships, something that is actually sanctioned by the NCAA. And I've been on this soapbox for a minute. Like, we all know, and it's really hard to digest when we all know. It's like they're just basically, they're spitting in our face to go, yeah, we don't really need it. We do. We really need it. Like, we're at the point now where if we're going to grow, we need to create fanfare. We need to create, so the NCAA tournament does well. It does well. But if we really want to step it up, we need to have this be a thing. And maybe it's a neutral site. Maybe it's home matches, depending upon, that are dependent upon seating, whatever. But it needs to happen. And not only are we not getting it, they took a freaking team trophy. Like, we're going the other way. Like, we only got 3 team trophies this year.
So let me ask you this. I'm gonna start a business, and we're gonna sell walking shoes or running shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're an investor in that running shoe company. And then you find out that there's just as big of a walking shoe market as there is a running shoe market. Mm-hmm. And you and I just say, hey man, I'm only in the running shoe market. But mm-hmm. You're an investor. You got a vested and financial interest in my business, but I'm limiting you to the amount of success that you can have. Mm-hmm. All right. They have a national dual championship. Penn State don't want to show up for it, and it's recognized as a team national title, then don't come. But I guarantee you, season 1, probably no big deal. Season mm-hmm. 2, probably no big deal. Season 3 rolls around, and those guys that are stroking long checks to Penn State are going to be like, hey, buddy,
Mm-hmm.
You need to suit up and go to the national championships, because that's kind of what we pay this money for, is to win at everything.
Right.
So my perspective on that is like, you got to start somewhere.
No,
And
I
I think
100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. But I think that uh, the words that probably come out of his mouth is, it's just NWCA. It's not sanctioned by the NCAA. Until it's actually sanctioned by the NCAA, I don't
I
think
agree
that
with
he,
that. I agree
you
with
know,
that. And here's the thing that I don't know, because I'm not running those circles, is who controls. I mean, we know kind of NCAA in general, it's a bunch of greedy kind of, political
mhm,
dudes
mhm,
or whatever people, but who controls that in the wrestling aspect of whether a dual meet national title gets approved or doesn't get approved? I don't have a lot of faith that those are reasonable people with wrestling's best interest at heart. But
right,
I know one thing that makes sense to everybody is money.
right.
And if somebody said, look, I know you guys don't want to deal with it. I know you guys don't care about wrestling, even though you're on the wrestling board and all this, that, and the
That's right.
other. But I know one thing you do care about: money. And if we put this together and if we promote it right and we align with the right partners and TV deals and this, that, and the other, everybody gets a little something in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when can we meet and talk about getting this national championship taken care of? But here's the deal. If I'm trying to sell you something of no value, I get no dollars for it. We've got to build value.
Right.
Then we got to present it to the people and say, hey, we got a good product. It's
Mm,
worth it for you to make an NCAA dual national championship, because we've got this and we've got that and we've got that.
yeah. It's okay. Cart in front of
I'm
the
not saying it's
no,
that easy. I'm sure
no,
somebody's
no.
punching a
It's
hole
not
in the wall
easy.
being like, bro, you have no clue. I
No,
don't have a clue.
no. It's simple. It's not easy. How about that? It's simple. It ain't easy though, because it ain't easy.
Sure. Sure.
Joel, you got something there, brother?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I mean, speaking of, major events, you kind of mentioned that, most coaches don't obsess over the details that make an event an experience. And I'm curious, what should what should some coaches be looking for to kind of make that transition to say, hey, we're not just putting on a duel on a Tuesday night, but this is now an experience that people want to show up to.
Think just connection, having somebody feel like they're a part of something they can get behind. Not everybody has a kid that wrestles on the team, or they're alumni, or they're a donor. They don't necessarily have a direct connection to it. And it goes back to kind of storylines and identifying, like, remember the Olympics, they had like it was like the turn back the time or whatever, or something, where they went and followed an athlete and told you a quick story about him growing up in Siberia and overcoming all this stuff. And then it's like, and they're about to make their Olympic downhill ski run. And you're like, dude, I'm pulling for this guy, man. I just watched him grow up in the middle of nowhere. And like, I'd be cool to see that guy win. I think those connections allow me to have a little bit more involvement in the sporting competition. I think being able to, dude, think about how many events are on a given weekend and we don't even know when they come on. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like times, things like that. Just knowing when something's coming on, like marketing the event well, communicating with their customer base well, their viewership well. And if they are going, like, what does that vibe feel like? Do you got a DJ playing? Do you got people throwing out T-shirts? Like, do you cram everybody on one side of the gym and point the camera to the other side of the gym to make it look like the place is packed, instead of letting everybody spread out over an entire arena and look like it's empty? So people watching at
Yes.
home be like, dude, that was bumping. Like,
Yeah.
that whole place was packed. I'm going next time. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these things have been done before, and we're just not taking a lot of cues from people to go to want to be a part of something. Like a regular old tournament, an experience is everything from like how easy it is to get to the venue, to are weigh-ins a disaster, was registration a disaster, did the tournament start on time? Like, there's a ton of things that, like, me as a coach taking a group of kids to just a tournament, Like my experience before I even get to the tournament day of competition, I could maybe make up my mind that I'm never going back there again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of times, like all these aspects that we don't think about are important, like they are. And the people that are paying the bills or supporting it or trying to be a fan of the brand that you're presenting, like all of that stuff matters. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I talk to Papalizio about it all the time. You know, it's like, do I need to change the format of Journeyman Duels? Like me and Lawrence and Papalizio talk so our tournaments don't fall close to each other.
Yeah.
Because we truly believe that the P&L stuff and the Journeyman stuff and the Elite Eight stuff, we don't need to poach off each other because we're doing it to create opportunities for these kids. And we're doing it to create a viable brand that we can market and scale. And so, you know, and there's some people I'm like, look, I'll do it on the same date as you and I'll put you out of business. I mean, that's the way it is. But like there's certain things that we need to coordinate. There's only so many elite wrestlers in the country, right?
Right.
So, you know, and things like that, just the coordination, I feel like is off in a lot of aspects when you're talking about an actual experience of an event, you know? So,
Yeah. Well, it's hard. The problem is that either you run an RMN event, which is a puppy farm, and you just nickel and dime people for $20 for fast pass registration or fast pass weigh-ins, or and you make a lot of money, period. The end. The RMN makes a lot of money per event. Okay. Or you run a buttoned up, well run machine that is the Elite Eight Duels, and you lose 10 grand a weekend.
yeah, I think those aren't comparable. I would say, you know, something like a Super 32
Right.
versus something. And I think there's levels to it. I think at the youth level, it's so easy to smash and grab because you have so many uneducated people.
Sure.
You know, there's just like they're taking a dad they sit next to at practice for a couple hours a week's word for it, and they go to whatever. And hey, dude, if you're a consumer and you don't do your research and you buy a crappy product, then you buy a crappy product. Like you bought stuff online and got it and be like, yo, like what is this? What did I just spend $20 on? Like that picture looked good online, didn't read the reviews, didn't research anything about it. So same thing with wrestling, you know, but again, I signed my kid up for a tournament in Colorado. I take them out there. It's a miserable experience. As a consumer, guess what I don't do? I don't spend the money to go back out to Colorado again. Some of these guys keep them on the fringe with the Triple Crown, unicorn, like whatevers. And hey, that's a gimmick. Look at Karate Studios. I mean, that's the most genius thing of all time, right? Little Johnny gets to come in as a white belt, and after we've taken $1 million of your money over 30 years, you know, he gets a black belt, and he's just as terrible as he was. But we just kept progressing him, and you kept paying the monthly fee. You know, I'm not taking a shot at karate, but you understand what I'm saying? It's like, if you can keep people on the hook for something, and they're not smart enough to look around and make a educated decision, then you get what you get. But at the end of the day, Super 32 makes a whole bunch of money. God bless Dave and Sarah. I hope they get rich for the rest of their lives off that tournament. But you know what you won't experience when you go to that event? Late, shit show weigh-ins,
Right.
unorganization. You know what I'm saying? Poor officiating. You know what I'm saying? Like that event is buttoned up and the details are obsessed over, and everybody would pay any amount of money. They could double the entry fee next year and nobody would bat an eye. And they would double the money they make and nobody would not come. Because they've created brand loyalty, because it's a massive event. They know that they can get street cred if they place at that tournament. All right. They have won people over with an experience. When you go to that event, you experience the highest level of wrestling, tiny kid to high school kid, and they do it consistently year after year after year. You got my money. You got my money. Like you ain't even got to argue with me. Like, take it every year,
Yeah,
take it.
I don't know. I maybe that event has built enough brand loyalty and street cred to do it, but I still think that there's a lot of problems with it that I don't know that it's worth it. And I'll give you an example. You can't have my athletes for if you don't consider one way in for 3 days a bit crazy and backwards, I think it's wrong. If you don't consider that 1-1-1 is not a real wrestling match and is not conducive to finding out if it truly,
They don't have 1-1-1 anymore.
yes they do, bud, on the first day if you're in the
No,
wrestlebacks on the
it
first
ain't
day.
1-1-1. It's 2-1-1.
Hey bud, first day.
I don't think so. Well, even if it is, has much changed over the years though? Did they start out 2-2-2 and then
No,
all of a sudden
no, but they do it
changed?
only because no,
So
but they do it only because of the size of the tournament, which is another thing. Okay,
sure.
they do it because they want to stuff more people into that arena, and they do it because at every aspect it's a smash and grab job.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I think it started with great stuff. Like it started as this, like, don't get me wrong, I like the first couple Metallica albums as opposed to the Black album. Like, so maybe that's just me, right? But I'm just saying, like, the concept was sound, and then they just let everyone in for 15 minutes. Like they open the floodgates, and I just don't know if that's the best way to do it. And I don't think I know it's not the best way to do it. There's a lot of different aspects of that specific event that I don't love.
Hey, and you know what you don't do?
Hmm.
You don't pay the money and go out there and do it.
We didn't. No.
Right. But that's
Right.
what I'm saying. It's like
Right.
they didn't promise you something and then
That's
change
right.
it at the last minute.
No, that's for sure.
They didn't project an experience and then you got there and it wasn't. Like, it is what it is. You did your research as a coach. You're
Right.
not an idiot. And you said, hey, this is not a good fit for my guys.
Right.
Cost, experience, all that. And you made a conscious decision as a coach, as a father,
Right.
as a consumer, that you're not going to get my money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the world works.
That's right.
Like,
Right.
you think that $19 coffee that you rode your electric skateboard to go get this morning, you just took a sip out of and paid that California
First of all,
you think that's worth it every day, and God bless you, man. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you made that decision. But and I agree with what you're saying about Super 32, but again, they consistently delivered X. Whether you like X or not,
right,
there's enough people that like X, right? They consistently deliver that over time. And the people that are like, you know what, it is crazy. There's too many kids, like it's watered down, and they don't go, you know? But, and I don't even remember how we got off on that tangent, but, because you mentioned Elite Eight versus an RMN event, versus like a larger scale event. I think there's going to be snakes everywhere, man. There's snakes in every market. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. No, but I guess my problem is that there's nothing in between. My problem is that it's either you have to sell your soul to the $20 fast pass weigh-in gods, okay, or you have to be Cliff Fretwell and lose a gang of money because you truly want to create a perfect product. And that's tough for me because, like, why would you're a smart person, so I know that you are not losing. You look at it in a different way. You look at it as a marketing opportunity. But
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because you made me get on the phone, but for this is a good conversation about business.
Okay.
I am pretty sharp businessman. Shane Chittum's one of the smartest businessmen I've ever met in my life, right?
Right.
Pretty successful cat. you call me or you text me and you said, hey, we need to get on a call to discuss content creation for Elite Eight.
That's right.
Because we both know that the only way that losing money is not losing money is that weekend is a giant commercial for my sportswear company.
That's correct.
I'm not going to make that money back as people walk in the door and as we collect team registration fees, right? We're not even going to make that off the stream numbers because the stream numbers aren't what people think they are. Let's me and you be clear about that. All these hundreds of millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people you think are watching online streaming events, they ain't watching online streaming events, bro. Like, just know that. Like,
hey,
some
do you
people
know
feel
what?
like
Hey,
they
can we
ripped
talk
off.
for honestly? Okay, but what people don't realize is this strike that was happening in Hollywood for the last year. Do you know why it was happening? It's because they wanted the Screen Actors Guild wanted a piece of the streaming, and then all the streaming companies, the Netflix, the Hulu's, the Disney Plus, the whatever, they didn't want to release the numbers. Do you know why they didn't want to release the numbers? Because they're really small. They're really, really, really small. So what people don't recognize is it's all a house of cards. Like that whole streaming. Don't get me wrong. Is there money in streaming? Yes, there is. However, you had better be the streaming company. You cannot be the streaming event. Like there's just, and that's what
It's tough.
that's what the actors are. They're the streaming event.
Or you're the streaming company and you're the streaming event.
Right.
That's double dipping.
Right.
You know, and
So
that's the way. That's smart. But to get back to Elite Eight, it was losing money.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, like losing actual revenue versus gaining brand exposure versus how many of these athletes are wearing my brand, how much content is Mike and his team going to create, how much of that content can I trickle out for months after the event on my social platforms? Because here's the deal, and there was this big video like viral thing going around of a couple of these business gurus talking about, like, you ever see Red Bull post a product on the social media? Like that was some like genius thing that somebody noticed in the last couple months, that Red Bull never posts a product. Well, no shit. Like, Red Bull came up with the most creative ways to put their logo on extreme athletes and do ridiculous stuff. Right? They were ahead of the game. They've been cheating the whole time, right?
Sure.
And like, that's nothing new. But again, like, I'm only going to make this max amount of money from entry fee and the door, right? My company sells to all of these people, right? So now I got their eyeballs, and then all the people are watching this buy wrestling gear.
Right.
So how do I maximize that, right? Again, that's starting to figure out what you can do from a business aspect, so where you might not be at the end of the spreadsheet at the end of the day, but you're gaining market share in other aspects. And I feel like, you know, those are things that, you know, it's like, we only can make money off the entry fees and early weigh-ins and door, and then that's your event.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But like,
yeah, people don't realize that Behind the Dirt started simply to market Rhino Wrestling Club. Period. The end. Had no other interest other than, and it was just me and a iPhone 4 and me going, boom. And that was
amazing hair, bro. And some
I did have
amazing
a solid quaff of lettuce. Yeah, there was a lot of that though. There's a lot of that. One of the athletes this past weekend said to me, Coach, I saw a video of you with hair. How come you don't grow your hair back? I'm like, you don't think that fucking occurred to me? You don't think that
where are those, one of those red light things? Hell, get a red light helmet, bro.
I got one. All right. What else? Anything?
Do you really have a red light helmet?
Not a helmet, but I do have a red light.
Oh, okay, bro. You were gonna go get it and put it on right now if you I would have lose my mind if you, bro. That would have been amazing.
All right, look here, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. How do people get a hold of you? Because there are people that need your help. There are people in the sport that need your help, and I know that you have so much time to give to them. And how are they going to get a hold of you?
I mean, like help in what aspect? Like,
Well, just in general, right? Like if there's a coach in rural Montana that needs to market their event and just has two questions for you, how do they get a hold of you?
oh, you can just email me, cliff@cmpsportswear.com. I mean, I don't mind helping guys. Or find me on Instagram, Narkill on Instagram, or just search for Cliff Fretwell and just shoot me a DM. Like I got no problem with that. I mean, we post a ton of technique on Compound Sportswear or Compound Wrestling Instagram, and Josh and me answer all the DMs. I think that's one thing that we always answer all the DMs, because I remember being that coach that was asking questions and sometimes couldn't get a lot of answers. So yeah, man, I don't mind helping guys out create experiences with events. I think there probably needs to be a best practices like little packet that the world could, benefit from. Like maybe that's a
We're on it.
PDF me and you
We
need to
are on it,
create.
sir. No, we're on it.
Good,
We're on it.
good.
Cliff Fretwell, thank you so much for giving us your time. I truly appreciate you, brother.
Man, it's always great to see you, Big Mike. Love what you're doing, brother.
Peace.